Hey, folks. All right, time for a bit of a serious Kirblog. Well, not serious, but an important one, important subject. Taking another listener question from Blackrosewicth, who asked, "Hey, Kirb, I'd really like to know about how you developed your art style. Every artist or animator has their own style that's sort of their own signature. How did you create your art style? Was it inspired by someone else's? Did it just come to you? I'd really like to know." So this is important because I feel like I like to take responsibility for the fact that a lot of the people who follow the work that I do, and enjoy it, which I appreciate, are young artists who are interested in, growing and learning more. And, I often get a lot of emails, just for general advice and things like that. And I felt like this particular subject from the question could kind of help answer some really important questions. I keep using that word, good. That I think that not every artist thinks about, and myself being an example, actually. It's a pitfall that a lot of artists at a young age kind of fall into without even realizing what the deal is. And so very often, and especially when I meet people in real life, like at conventions, young artists who want to know stuff. In fact, the younger you are when you hear this sort of thing, the better it is and the more beneficial it can be for you. So what am I getting at? Okay, well, first of all, to answer the actual question, I'll give a little bit of a personal history on this. So, I grew up on a lot of things that I've talked about in Kirblogs in particular. My earliest drawings were not really inspired by anything in particular. I just sort of drew. I guess it looked a little bit like a very crude version of Hey Arnold, but Hey Arnold wasn't out at the time. I wasn't, drawing inspiration from that necessarily. It was just kind of drawing on that sort of sketchy sort of style. Excelled to him, but anyway, especially not 3-year-old Kirb. I'm not comparing that to the creative Hey Arnold. Anyway, Pokemon came around, and that was a big influence for a time. And then the biggest one that really changed the way that I drew was, and I found out who it was, in fact, because I recently got to meet him about a year ago at Otakon, Shingo Adachi, who was the character designer for Mega Man Battle Network. So I distinctly remember when when the first Mega Man Battle Network game was coming out on the GBA in, I'm going to say 2000, 2002 or something, around that area. I remember seeing the artwork in an issue of Nintendo Power and be like, whoa, that looks awesome. I really like that. It's such a nice, bright colored, defined style, and the clothing is really cool, and the net navies are really awesome, and so that was the big one that just I want to draw like that, yeah, and I took bits and pieces from other things, but that was the big one, and people who see my artwork more so kind of back in the day. Now I think I've developed more of my own unique voice with my drawing style, but early on it was very much that. So that was the earliest kind of sign of that, and then that should probably answer the actual question. But let's flash forward to around when I started college. So I met a few people at the School of Visual Arts, I believe people who were graduating, actually, that were looking at my artwork, and I remember there was this one guy in particular. He was a guy that kind of reminded me of Jason David Frank. He looked kind of like a young Jason David Frank for some reason. Anyway, whatever. But he wasn't being a dick about it at all, but just, he was speaking very earnestly, and he saw some of my stuff, and he's like, just out of curiosity, do you work with any of those, how to draw manga books? And I don't think I fully understood the severity of that. But, later I would realize, oh, that was a really bad thing that he even had that comparison at all, because it's just oh, God. And I did have a couple of those, but I really didn't learn anything from them necessarily, at all. I think the most I took away from it was I saw a character in one of them that had, a weird arm blade that I kind of stole and put on Shogun from Tome, the blue-haired guy. But that was also kind of in reference to the fact that this is stupid looking. I'm going to give him this stupid looking weapon. So anyway, yeah, so that happened, and later down the line it kind of hit me of oh, that wasn't a good sign. So flashing forward to my third year, I was taking quite a bit of life drawing. I had one class every week that was about 5 hours of life drawing, and then once a month my main animation class would have a model come in, and we would do that instead of the usual assignment that week. We would just, draw from the model. Now, understand this is like hours and hours and hours for an entire year of school of life drawing. Whew, my God, I have never had a weakness in my skills as an artist exposed more than in doing life drawing. My God. And now here's the thing. This is going to be the interesting part, because I'm wondering about how the comments are going to be. Certain people who are, we'll say, a little more leaning on the critical side of my work when it comes to my drawings, I should say. There's also critical people of my writing, but that's a whole other story that I'm not going to go into right now. Maybe another one. Anyway, yeah, so people who really like analyze and rip apart my drawings, they can tell you, for all the fanfare I may or may not have or whatever, my drawings aren't very good. I struggle very, very heavily with anatomy. And here's the thing. This is kind of going into the main point now. So the trap that artists fall into that I was kind of alluding to previously is the fact that a lot of people develop a style of drawing, whether it's, their own unique one or, copying somebody else's. They develop a style, for better or worse, before they actually learn how to draw, like traditionally draw. And this is where it gets a little bit gray, because it's like when you're a kid, you're not really thinking about that necessarily. You're just, you're just drawing stuff, whether it's like, oh, I feel like drawing this thing, or oh, I want to draw this character that I watched on TV or something, whatever. Like, actually, it's funny because I just met a friend of mine from SVA who, Sarah Ho, if any of you guys follow her on Twitter or Tumblr or anything, she had this cognitive disconnect where she just never had the mind to draw fan art as a kid. She just never thought to do that. It was just all about drawing original stuff, which I find fascinating. But yeah, anyway. So, when you're a kid, you're not really thinking about like, oh, I know I'm going to be an artist with my future, and I have to learn how to draw traditionally or whatever. But that's the reason why I say the younger the better. The most recent example I can think of was, I think, at MagFest last year or earlier this year. I forget. It's on New Year's Eve weekend, whatever. I met a girl who I want to say she was like 13 or 14, and she was like, I really want to learn how to draw. I'm thinking of going to college. And I'm like, okay. And she's like, what advice can you give me? And I'm like, all right, let me show you this. So I took out my sketchbook, and to the best of my ability, I, showed, like, breaking down anatomy, because she showed me some of her drawings. And I'm like, okay, if you take nothing else away from this conversation with me, take this away, like what I was showing her. And then I also stressed, like, life drawing, like, learn how to do that. Learn how to, like, study anatomy and learn how to draw it. Like, that is the most important thing, and you will thank yourself and me and life, because life drawing, you need to do that. It is extremely important. And if you even just look objectively, like, at my story, it's like, I was little and I was watching Mega Man and I wanted to draw like Mega Man, and then I drew like Mega Man. It's like, that sounds ridiculous, but it just happens a lot, So it's why I kind of wish that I cared more about super traditional art stuff, the more quote-unquote boring side of art at a younger age, because that would have made me a much stronger artist, now. Because the thing is, and this is the case for a lot of different things. In fact, almost any career path you can take. You have to have a firm understanding of the basics in order to be a master of a craft. You have to fundamentally understand everything about what makes it up. If you're an actor, you need to have an understanding of performing. Like, people who want to be voice actors, you see this all the time. They have, like, no interest in, like, studying theater or radio or whatever, and they're just like, oh, fan dubs, this and that. My fan radio plays. It's like, no, that's not really learning how to be a performer. Like, you have to get like Eric Vale talked about this on a video once. I should link that at some point for the people who are more interested in the voiceover side. Yeah, fundamentals are extremely, extremely important, or you're going to screw yourself over. That's why I'm saying, like, speaking objectively about myself, it's like, fundamentally, my drawings are not very good, and that's because I didn't study anatomy when I was younger. I struggle with anatomy as, a teenager to young adult, you know, it just never sunk in. And I really tried. I remember like the professor from my anatomy class in particular, or the life drawing class, and my actually I had I had an anatomy class, like just specifically anatomy, where we just had to draw like skeletons and things, and you know, just like basic kind of stuff like that in my second year of college. And then then the life drawing class was in my third year. In both of them, I struggled supremely. The anatomy class, I admittedly I was not super enthusiastic about it because the work was just so tedious, and so like I wasn't getting it. And then with the life drawing class, I was getting it, and I was really, really trying hard and working with the professor, like personally being like, you know, help me. I need to. I'm not getting this right. And I was just slogging through it. So I tried a lot, but I don't know. I just couldn't get the hang of it for some reason. So what am I trying to say about this? Okay, what I'm trying to say is by example, because I guess this is kind of a case of like, do as I say, not as I act, or rather as I am, because I just kind of am the way I am now. Not to say that I'm not still learning things, of course, but I'm saying like I have more of an uphill battle with my own artwork because of setting myself up in a bad way, you know, early on. So I'm reaching out with this Kirblog in particular to like the youngest viewers that I have in particular who want to, not even if you want to be an artist, but like in general, if like you're interested in doing anything, please, I implore you, same thing I said to the girl I met at MacFest, if you take nothing else away from this video, study the shit out of the basics and have them just absolutely like drilled into your skull. They are going to be boring and tedious and not as interesting as just doing the fun part of what it is that you're interested in. Like, I know that. But I swear to God, like it will make you so much better. It will make you infinitely better than I ever could be as an artist, probably. Because if you have that firm grounding, you know, you're set. Like, actually, on another, I'll use another voiceover example, I guess. Michael Johnston, this kid that I'm working with who just moved out here to California a little while before I did. He's been doing this since he was super young, and he's been doing theater and studied recording, and, you know, he makes a living doing voiceover. A living. Not like, oh, you know, he's going out for auditions. No, he makes a living. Like pretty much 100% of the time, he makes a living off of doing voiceover, because he studied and knew what he wanted to do from an early enough age and really honed his skills, and, you know, he's very good. And he, you know, doesn't stop learning. It doesn't stop aspiring to greater heights. Yeah, you know, I mean, and there's plenty of amazing students who moved out here, who graduated later than I did, moved out here before I did, actually, when they graduated SVA, I should say, and they're working. This one girl, Dana Terrace, who was, I think, 2 years below me, who I knew online vaguely, like years before I went to college through Chris Zito. Graduated 2 years after me, moved here before me, and now she's working on Gravity Falls as a storyboard artist, you know, because she knows her shit. She studied the crap out of the craft of animation and art and anything and everything that ever, you know, was associated with what she was having to do. She made a killer thesis film. If that's available online anywhere, I'll have a link to that too. I don't know if it is. Yeah, I mean, like, there are great examples of that, and you will. It's a major recipe for success, you know. So really, like take that the most away from what it is that I'm saying now. You know, please study the basics of whatever it is you're interested in, whether it's acting, art, anything, engineering. I don't even care. Like, whatever. Like, you have to get those basics grounded into you before you develop your own style. And that's when the point of the whole Kirblog hit me. Whoops. Styles, developing a style before you learn the basics of something that you're interested in doing, can be dangerous because it can stunt your growth. It can hold you back from learning and improving and doing better at what it is that you want to do. If you develop your style, you're going to be completely stuck in that. And learning new things and branching out and doing better and getting those more tedious fundamentals ingrained in your system is going to be exceedingly more difficult. It's kind of like, if you remember the old commercials for Muzzy, which I think is still a thing, if I remember correctly, there's a study that shows that kids have a better chance of learning another language the younger they are, as opposed to when they're an adult and they're, fully ingrained in the English language and don't know how to learn another one. That's not always necessarily the case, and I don't even know if scientifically that's true. It could be bullshit for all I know, but the same kind of principle applies. The earlier you cement the basics into your entire being, the stronger you're going to be at that craft. Like, always is what I've always found consistently with younger artists who are infinitely more talented than I am, artists, actors, creatives, anything. That's what they do, and that's what you have to do. If you want to be good, if you really want to be good and you really want to do what it is that you do for a living, and you really want to like completely just envelop yourself in whatever that is, it's what you feel like you have to do, it's your calling or whatever, then please, I implore you, do that. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have to say, really. But you know what? For this one, I mean, comments, like, maybe I'll answer some kind of sub-questions to this if you have any. Maybe sometimes I answer little minor questions in the comments. But otherwise, yeah, like, if you have questions about expansions to kind of to this topic, sorry, losing steam. Okay, keep it up. Let me know if you have stories to share, other experiences, things you want to add on to my point. Please leave a comment about that. I implore you to. And then, as usual, if you've got ideas for other Kirblog topics, leave a comment about that too. Hit me up on Twitter, Tumblr, Facebook, whatever you want. And yeah, that's it. So, whew, okay, yeah, this is a fun one. I was really looking forward to doing this one. I hope you all take something away from this, because I was trying to treat this as importantly and high priority as possible. Yeah, so thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week on the next one. Bye-bye.